Welcome to the channel, everybody. In today's tutorial video, we are covering clothing here in the Unreal world. So if you're a brand new player, first we're going to go through the steps of putting clothing on, what combination of clothing you can wear, which might be a little bit confusing to new players because it isn't really outright explained. And then for the second half of the video, we're going to talk about the different types of clothing, armors and things like leather, fur, linen, wool. So stick around, guys. I hope you'll hit that like button if you learned something from this. If you're a veteran player, please leave some comments down below, suggestions, anything that I leave out, or anybody out there who'd like to see a tutorial made for another subject, please drop that below too. But with that said, let's get into the video and talk about how to equip your clothing. Alright, and for today's video, we are here with Athena of the Owl Tribe. She is my character from the Spirit Quest Resurrected series. So if you'd like to check out that series or any of my other Unreal World playthroughs, I do have links to all the playlists down in the description. So I hope you'll check those out once you get through the tutorial. But now, like I said, let's address how to put on clothing and just exactly what combinations of different clothing types you can wear in the game, because it might be a little confusing and unclear to a new player. So we're going to talk about that right now. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and grab some clothing. I've got a whole bunch of it laid out here on the ground in a line. Currently, she's not carrying or wearing anything. The character is completely without clothes. I've got a stack of armor and stuff here. We'll leave that there just for now. We don't need the armor. But she certainly wants some protection against the weather and a little bit of protection maybe from the occasional reindeer hoof or kick. Might be good too. But we've got some linen stuff here, so we'll grab this. Nothing too much in the terms of linen. Linen is made from the flax plant, which is something you can only trade for unless you have mods installed. Things like nettle, linen, birch bark even are items you'll need to trade for as opposed to crafting. Pretty much vanilla, all you can craft is leather and fur. Armor itself you'll have to collect from enemies or get blacksmiths to make it. But speaking of leather, I've got a nice little set of leather gear here. We're going to grab these. Some items you'll see too, like the leather paws, are not vanilla. That's a modded item, but don't worry about that. It still applies in terms of our discussion here today about what you can wear and what combinations. So we're also going to grab our woolen stuff here. Very good. And I'm going to grab the fur. Very important. Fur for protection from the cold. And we got a little bit of nettle stuff here again, and some birch bark, which I guess I'll pick those up too. I'm going to leave the nettle on the ground. It's not that important. So first things first, we're just going to talk about how you mechanically wear things in the game. And I should note that if you forget any key binds or commands, just hit the question mark button, shift plus question mark, and it opens up the help list here. This is something that I've referred to many times in my hours of playing Unreal World. It's very extensive and it has everything you need for each different scenario that you're playing, whether it's combat or just picking up something next to you. So, like I said though, if you want to wear something that's currently in your inventory but is not being worn by your character, hold down Shift and push the W button. There you go, and that brings up a list of any viable clothing items you can wear. Also, it will bring up a list of like certain weapons, like a bow or a spear you might have, and you can put in your hands. But right now, we're just focused on clothing. So again, you're going to want to wear things, but there's only certain combinations of things you can wear. So for instance, let's talk about these trousers. Obviously, these are pants, and I've got a linen pair here, which we can put on by hitting spacebar, by selecting it, and then spacebar. Now we're actually wearing these. If we check our inventory, you can see there's a little graphic representing that we're wearing it in this category, whereas the rest of those lack any graphic. So that's one way you can tell if you're wearing it. Also, if you want to remove the item, you can see if I hit Shift plus T to take off, you can see that it's in black now, meaning symbolizing it's a viable item to be taken off, whereas everything in red is already off you. You're not actually wearing these, so there's no reason to select them from this menu. But I'm going to escape out of this again, and we'll hit Shift W to wear. Now everything's reversed because we can put all these items on here. So let's talk about the combinations you can wear now that we know how to put things on. So for instance, we've got the pants here, the trousers. Normally you can only layer things of different material types. So in other words, I can't wear 2 woolen leggings, for instance, or I can't wear 2 pairs of leather boots or leather shirts, but I will be able to wear a leather shirt and a woolen shirt in combination with each other. There we go. So I just put those on. And if we check the inventory screen again, yep, you can see they're now represented by little graphics. And we are wearing 2 different kinds of shirts. Again, if it was 2 leather shirts, it wouldn't be viable. And in fact, let me go ahead and demonstrate that by grabbing another shirt. All right, so I've put together another leather shirt. Now, it's not good quality, but don't judge me, all right? So let's go to our inventory screen. So everything's black because we're just looking at it here generally. You can see I also picked up a rough Nettle shirt to just demonstrate more layering of the different material types. But we've got our linen trousers and the few shirts. So let's go to the wear screen with Shift W. And you can see, as I said, we are currently wearing that leather shirt, again, represented by the icon here. The other elk leather shirt here, which, oh, it's not that rough. It just says elk there. This one is not available. It's in red. We're not wearing it, but it's red. It's canceled out because you can't layer 2 things of the same material. A leather shirt and a leather shirt do not match. But the Nettle shirt does match. There we go. That's the rough item I saw. There we are. So now you can see we are currently wearing 3 different kinds of shirts. A Nettle shirt, a woolen shirt, and a leather shirt. And the same would be true if you got your hands on a fur shirt. You could put that on as well. You can wear all the combinations of different material types, but the real key is trying to balance your weight. If we hit Shift plus A, that brings up this wonderfully drawn armor coverage statistics screen. And we can get an overall average of all our protection with our armor and things like that against attacks, or a good gauge of our protection against the elements, the cold. So you can see colors, green is good, red is bad, and everything in between. But like I said, the real important thing is balancing the weight, because you could just fully outfit yourself and be as protected from all things as possible, but you'd be wearing over 200 pounds of stuff, and you wouldn't be able to fight or hunt very well at all, now would you? So like I say, you want to look for combinations. I typically go with a combo of fur, leather, and wool, not including the armor. Of course, armor I put on just for special occasions when I'm in a fight or something. But if you're looking for all-around yearly protection, leather plus fur with some woolen items that aren't available in those 2 other types, like mittens and some socks and things like that. But those will get you through all the seasons, even the deepest, coldest parts. But experiment with your own combinations for sure. But with that being said, let's talk about the different types and what benefits you get from them. All right, and for this final section of the video, we're going to be talking about the different types of materials and what benefits they have, leather versus fur versus wool and things like that. Now, most of the facts that I'm giving you guys come straight from the wiki page, which is extremely helpful. It's got some really great charts, not just on like the different resistances and armor coverage, but also things like the types of clothing that are available and in what materials. So for instance, if you're looking for a birch bark, set of leggings, do they make those? Is that even available? That's all on the wiki there. But like I said, we're going to just cover some of the most important facts for new players, and that'll help you make some decisions in what you should be wearing. So obviously the armor types here, the metal armor is what we're going to be looking at. Let's go ahead and pick up some of the things I've got here. So you can see we've got an iron helm, pretty straightforward what that does, covers the head. The mail harpagon, this is a full body piece. And I believe if we're not sure, just hit the F1 button to open up your encyclopedia. And it does show you shoulders, thorax, abdomen, hips, groin, what it covers here. pretty helpful there. Also, alternately, you can just wear it and then go back to that armor coverage statistics page to get a color-coded readout of what you cover. Then you've got the long mail cowl, mail mittens, legging, knee coverage, cooties, and this isn't a full list of the iron or metal type of armor in the game, but it's a pretty good one here. Right now, if she were to wear this, she'd be fairly weighted down, but she'd be very well protected. So most of these things you can trade for. In fact, all of them can be traded for if you're lucky. The best settlements or civilizations for that are the Drick, the Sarto, the Koivula, and the Remi. Those are the 4 richest cultures in the game, again, per the wiki. I usually go to the Drick culture myself and find a lot of good armor pieces there. Unfortunately, there is no blacksmithing you can do from the player's point of view. You can't craft it yourself, but there are some good mods that will allow you to do that. Go all the way from mining your own iron to blacksmithing it on anvils and heating it up, all that cool stuff. I do have a link to that mod down below, but just keep in mind you have to install it manually. There is no workshop for this game on Steam, but it's a fairly simple process and it's not too bad. Just always back up your game files. But let's move on to the next one here. We're talking about linen next. So linen is good for offering some protection against cold while also keeping you cool in hot weather. So in other words, if you found a nice good suit of linen clothing, your shirt, your pants, you know, then you could wear that year round and just work around it. In other words, take off the furs during the summer, leave your linen stuff on, put all the fur and leather back on during the winter for the extra cold. So linen's helpful. It's lightweight, like I said. But unfortunately, this is another one you can't craft up yourself. As I mentioned, you can make linen. I think you can take linen from the flax and spin it into yarn, but you can't make the clothing yet, at least, without mods. So the next one is going to be leather. Now, this is the type of clothing you can make in the game. You'll get leather from killing certain types of animals, produce leather. I'll pop up that list here on the screen for you. But remember, too, any animal you kill, you can take fur and de-hair it and turn that into leather. If you're unfamiliar with the tanning process, I do have a tutorial just for that in this series as well. But leather is great for protection from certain types of attacks. It's obviously not as good as metal, but it's definitely going to help you out quite a bit. And it does offer a little bit of protection from the cold too. But it definitely needs to be combined with something like fur or wool to give you complete cold coverage. All right, and let's move on to the next stack. We've got woolen stuff here. So again, wool is something, unfortunately, you can't craft yourself, but you can trade for it. And wool is a great overall clothing. It definitely offers you good warmth protection, but I think for the very deepest parts of winter in this game, you probably would need some wool and fur in combination. You wouldn't be able to just get away with a woolen outfit. But wet leather and fur are very easy to come by. So a good wool suit is great. It's comfortable for your player. Wear it under the armor. But again, if you want to get your hands on it, you'll have to trade for it. So if you want this kind of masterwork quality stuff, go to the Drick culture. That's where I always send new players who want the highest quality goods in the Unreal world, is the Drick. But if we move to the next stack, where you can see we're looking at the coveted furs. So this is a very important material type. Probably the first types of clothing you'll make will be fur. Like, it's probably going to be fur mittens or fur footwear too. It's very important to keep those extremities warm so they don't get frostbitten. Oh, oops, I got some birch bark shoes in this pile too, but just ignore those. So obviously fur is the best protection for cold weather. And there is a list of the different warmth values that the different animals will provide. But I'll just say that bear fur is going to be the best for both some protection from attacks and from the cold. But again, if you want a full list of the different calculations and values for the different animal fur types, it's on the wiki. But go for the bear stuff 100% if you can. But be careful when hunting bears, of course. Okay, and for the last stack here in the ground, this is the nettle stuff here, and I'm just going to lump in the nettle, the birch bark, and probably I wouldn't necessarily say the linen, even though they all are derived from plants, but certainly the nettle and the birch bark stuff. You can wear it if you want. It doesn't offer you a whole lot of protection against the cold. Very, very minor protection against attacks and stuff like that. I pretty much typically avoid it altogether. There's not much reason for it in my mind. The wiki does say that maybe you could wear some birch bark shoes during like the warmer months so you avoid any wear and tear on your nice fur footwear, but really it's almost more for role playing aspects. You might want to say if you want to be like a totally like nettle wearing hermit of the woods or something like that, it's good for it. But otherwise, stick with the basics: the fur, the leather, wool, definitely some of the armor, and maybe even some linen stuff if you can find it out there. But I think that covers all the different material types, guys. I hope you've learned something from today's tutorial. Again, leave me the comments down below if I've missed something, if you got suggestions. I really love hearing from you guys. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't for more tutorials and Unreal World content, and I will see you all on the next one.